Thank you for that fabulous introduction. Really glad to see so many smiling faces in here today. I appreciate your patience. So, as Catherine was mentioning, Sally Ann Freudenberg and herself started this inclusive collaboration movement. I was one of the first charter members. I'll say I got involved very early. Strong focus on neurodiversity in tech, but I'm definitely personally on a platform of broader inclusion. Just so it gets into Ashby's Law of Requisite Variety. You want enough diversity in the system that you're out of a monoculture. Too much diversity in a system where it gets too granular, you end up with noise instead of a signal. So it is about finding this balance between 2 points. And I have Vanessa's name down here in parentheses. She's wasn't going to be here today, so life got in the way, things she had to tend to, but she did help me put this talk together for Chicago. And she's not a little angel on my right shoulder whispering in my ear, not a little devil on the left one. She's sitting right on top of my head like an anchor. You've seen Ratatouille maybe? So she's up there steering me a little bit and reminding me that if I stay very still and don't tilt my head too much, she won't fall off. So this will make more sense later in the talk, I hope. So a little bit about me and Vanessa. I do get billed out as a socio-technological mathematician at large. So this isn't just about the tech. Randy was saying you can automate that thing that takes 8 hours and make it happen in 5 minutes. Yes. What about convincing all the people that need to sign off on all the things to allow me to automate that 8-hour task? The people side of it gets a little bit trickier. And it's this blend between people and humans where we hit the real value, right? So any computer system, if there's not humans involved in it, it's not actually doing anything. It's not delivering value to anyone. If you think you've got a system with no people in it, you need to zoom out a little bit. You're too zoomed in. You've missed the point entirely. And both me and Vanessa, neither of us are pure business or pure sales or pure tech. As a mathematician, I've got a broader background. Vanessa's got some technical experience for sure. Anybody tells me they've got no tech experience, they don't work in tech, say you're full of it. You use a laptop every day, you might be on a phone now. You're a technologist, own it. So, here's what we're gonna talk about. Our intro to stereotypes, how stereotypes become a problem, overcoming and going beyond stereotypes, and finally, our differences make the difference. So this is sales and tech in 4 acts. Start with an intro to stereotypes. So we start life with stereotypes. Anybody remember playing dress up as a kid? You're bootstrapping a level of cognition here. So you're learning about police and firefighters and what doctors and nurses do. And this is a way of learning. We even do role play activities and training exercises sometimes as adults, correct? So this dress up, this role play, moving into this stereotypical view of a persona is something that happens pretty regularly from all through our lives. Has anybody heard about Bat-Kid? So the question here is Batman working hard? And the answer is yes. So they did this study, it's tied to the marshmallow experiment, testing children's willpower, but they put these kids in a room with an iPad they could play on in a task that was considered work. And the children in the room who referred to themselves as I or me, am I working hard, they didn't do that great. They played more. The kids that referred to themselves in the third person as Chris working hard, they did a little bit better. The kids that did the best were dressed up as Batman or another superhero. And when they said, is Batman working hard? You bet your ass Batman is working hard. Batman's kicking ass, right? So this is just a summary of that. And this is something the Make-A-Wish Foundation did. I believe it was out of Chicago. But this kid had a terminal illness. I think he's gotten better since then. But they pulled out the whole city and did this whole thing where this kid got to be Batman for a day. That was his wish he went and made, and they made it happen. And here's some data around that. Of particular note, 13% of all the tweets came outside of the US, and it hit 117 countries. So 13% of the traffic is out of 116 countries that were not the United States. And we've got percentage of all tweets that were deemed positive is 96%, which is effectively 100. you get into measurement error and things like that. It's pretty much all of it was goodwill. So the problem is, Bat-Kid is a romantic personification of Batman. Who knows who's in that picture? Who is it? Scarecrow. What does a scarecrow do? It's scary, right? So here's another stat that they didn't publish, but they had 0 hallucinogenic comas during this. If you've seen Batman Begins, part of fighting the scarecrow and being Batman is getting knocked out by a neurotoxin and being in a coma for 3 days. He didn't get stabbed, he didn't fall off a building. It looks good to be Batman, but Batman gets beat up all the time. And we have this romanticized notion where this doesn't happen. And we do the same thing when we think about moving into sales or tech or being a doctor or giving a conference talk. You ever think, this is gonna be great, none of the technology is gonna work for like the first 10 minutes, and then it's all gonna be fine. Happens more than you'd think, right? So, how was your first day of work, and how did you dress? We found this just Googling the I work at a tech startup starter pack. And this is part of what Randy was talking about in the last talk, the fake it till you make it, or you become the thing you're pretending to be to a certain extent. And here's the progression through the corporation, right? Stereotype of programmers is that I look like a bum, then I'm probably steadily employed. If I'm in a suit and clean shaven, then I'm probably unemployed and looking for a job. Got a sport coat on today. So if you saw me at the speaker's dinner, I was in a hoodie, I looked different, and people make judgments about this. So clothing is a tool, right? And even looking at me now, you make assumptions about me. Usually when I'm dressed like this, they say, you're a college professor or something. It's like, no, kind of, but no. It's a street academic, I think is the label they gave me. So how was your first day of work if you were in sales or business? So this is entry-level, commission-based sales job in the Midwest starter pack. They're assuming Midwest US, but you got the Ray-Bans, you got the watch, you got the BMW, you got the nice suit. You're gonna be a super business person going into the office, right? You're gonna look good, they won't know the difference. And Vanessa tweaked this around to represent that there's sort of an inverse expectation for sales or business side of the house. That when you're looking slovenly and need a bath, you've probably had a really hard time finding a job, and when you're at the top of a game is when you're decked out. So, how does this become a problem? You might already be thinking that somehow this might be a problem. So, knowledge is activated and transferred through rituals. So this is what we refer to as activated cognition. So those surgeons scrubbing up, we don't know if one of them is teaching the other one how to do it or if they're prepping to go into surgery, but this is an activated cognition, that the process of scrubbing up and getting into the guard before they go into the OR syncs their cognitive ability, gives them confidence that they're both qualified because they look like they know what they're doing, and it's a ritual that moves them into a space where they can actually do surgery. And we do this all the time. If you look at what a batter does in the batter box with baseball, right? They swing and they got the butt wiggle and they tap their shoes. This is all part of activating cognition on how to hit a baseball. And we all do these things. And you can even explicitly develop some of this and it'll help you move into a particular cognitive space. The question is, what knowledge are we transferring with new people coming into the industry? What are we telling them when they show up in their suit or their hoodie looking to be the thing they aspire to be, and they come in contact with someone who's experienced and they've got respect? What knowledge do we transfer in that situation when it moves beyond just looking the part? So I pulled a lot of tweets out. This one's pretty recent, June 9th. So pretty much what he's saying is, if you don't have anyone in your booth that doesn't know or understand the product being sold, it's kind of a downer. And that this is pretty routine with sales and marketing. You go to the booth and the person you talk about may not be able to answer all the questions you have. They're a salesperson. But it's also why they kind of suck, is what Matt says here. And there's no kind of about it. Sales and marketing really suck. This is the commentary you get added in behind that, which I think is a bit harsh. So we got Alyssa Shavinsky to save the day. I organized DevOps Days Atlanta. Alyssa came and spoke, gave an excellent container security talk, but she also gets that we see marketing and sales done poorly, but that doesn't invalidate the importance of fueling growth. I'll substitute growth with development, more on that in a moment. And if you see down here at the bottom, we need business, we need sales and marketing to achieve our full potential as an organization. And when they're done well, it's beautiful and as magical as any other crafts. So I believe that too. I know people that are very passionate about sales and want to do good work. I'm a theory Y person. I think people want to do good work. So this one's a little bit older, where he's complaining not once in his April 18th. That's not too horribly far off. This was before Chicago. But he's complaining that he's never seen a salesperson held accountable for selling something that doesn't exist, but constantly sees developers, technologists getting in trouble for not delivering things that were sold before we knew we were supposed to build them. And that there's some kind of a double standard there. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Marco Rogers. He is in sales. He talks about a lot of other stuff on Twitter. And you know, you've got engineers, this is craft. There's no way I could have anticipated that you would see no value in the product for 6 months because we messed up the estimates. 6 months is a long time, I agree with that. Did I get 6 months would be my question. Usually, I can get something done in 6 months. I can't get everything done in 6 months, right? So the sales dream, now that we've looked at the hell tech lives in, is the multi-million-dollar sale, the fixed up revenue coming in, support contracts, and this concept that we're keeping everybody employed. If we're not making money, then we're gonna go out of business and other people are gonna lose jobs. This is something that sales, business side of the house takes pride in, right? Getting cash flow positive is important. Hopes and expectations for tech. I look at this and it just makes my heart sing. That is a work of art. That is beautiful. Does anybody feel me on this? Anybody put together a network closet or has crimped an RJ45 cable in their life? And it's just like, it's like Keats level. It's just a joy forever. Just don't touch that. Please don't mess it up. A frequent reality with sales, though, is this guy, right? Vanessa picked the picture, so don't blame me for that. But you know, you probably just want to go ahead and sign this. Don't worry about the fine print. It'll shake out. You trust me, right? And a frequent reality that follows is this is what the network closet actually looks like. And when the intern who's been in college and hearing about the fabulous cutting edge technology we develop walks in and sees this, their heart sinks. You get a little anxiety maybe, because this is not, nobody signed up for this, right? No one wants to go, none of this works. I can tell you there's broken stuff in there. I don't even have to look at it, right? I don't need to trace a port or a wire or check anything or talk to anyone. There's something broken in there, I can promise you that. So these things are coupled. I need it yesterday. If we don't do it, we'll lose the account. We have to have honest conversations about this. Do we have business coming in? Can we let this one go? Are they asking for the impossible? Do you really want me to put that network closet, set the data center up like that? Or do we really need to make this happen? It's a fair question. And this also, sometimes you have to sign up, saddle up and ride with it, right? Go out with sales and do the smoke and mirrors demo to at least keep the client engaged. And it's like, we'll just give them a little bit of fluff, a little razzle dazzle, kick the can down the road for another couple weeks and we'll be fine, right? Well, what happens if they actually buy it? What if they sign up right then and want it now? Then what do we do, right? So maybe what we should do instead is just give them a t-shirt and call it a hackathon, because it's effectively the same thing, right? You're gonna show up at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're gonna work for like 2 days straight with minimal breaks. We're not gonna pay you. You're gonna hand us some ridiculous demo that's all vaporware, because you can't actually build a thing in that short of time. And maybe if the business side of the house thinks it's look good, we'll give you like $5,000 to split 5 ways, and then you can figure out how to actually build it. This is a terrible deal. Experienced technologists typically don't enter hackathons because of this. You end up with more new recruits in, which is what's giving them, they're learning bad habits here, right? So I'm not the biggest fan of hackathons. I think they need to be a little bit more balanced, room to look at that. So under pressure, we use veneers and revert to stereotypes. And this is the hackathon sales pitch, right? We didn't have time to put it together. So we cobbled something up that probably doesn't work, but just sign it. We'll figure it out later. It's probably fine. And this is a stereotypical hell. Who knows where this picture's from? This is Dante's Inferno. That is the ninth circle of hell, which they progressively get hotter until you get to the ninth circle. The ninth circle is a frozen lake. And in the center of that ice is Satan, weeping and gnawing on heads and flapping wings and blowing cold air over all these people that are frozen waist deep in the lake. And those people have betrayed someone or something precious to them. And that is the worst hell you can get. It's not fiery hot, it's a frozen hell of depression. So this is denying who we are as hell defined. Someone or something special to you should be you. If you can't take care of yourself, you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone, right? And this is where we fall into burnout in tech, which is a real problem. There's an increased suicide rate in general. It's more pronounced in tech, I believe. It's a problem that needs to get addressed. Everybody knows we just lost Anthony Bourdain, and it was a designer as well that recently committed suicide. This happens in tech a lot, though. So please, if you're feeling burnt out, you can come talk to me while I'm here. Don't do anything drastic and irreversible, though, like kill yourself. There's a minor tweak we can take to get you in a better job, get you in a better spot, where you can find some firmer ground. So how do we overcome these stereotypes and move on to something better? We are more than just our stereotypes. We like to make generalizations, but there's always something deeper. And often enough, that's neurodiversity. So I'm not autistic. I don't have Asperger's. It's come up since I started working with inclusive collaboration. There was a little online test Sal told me to take that was like a pre-screen, and I didn't score high enough on it to warrant further investigation. And from a psychology perspective, diagnosis gives you two things. That it gives you a sense of belonging in a community where it's a group you can identify with, and sometimes that label gives you access to help you might need. So I took the little test and I said to my spouse, well, I'm neurotypical then, right? She went, ooh, I don't think I'd say that. Maybe high functioning, but not neurotypical. So I am neurodivergent on that. My brain works a little bit different, but I don't have Asperger's. I don't have autism, for sure. But techies are often neurodivergent. There's a lot of folks like me in industry, and some of them do have official diagnosis. And here's some empirical evidence that Sal dug up. I know we're running a little bit on time, so I'm not going to read all these out loud. But there is hard data around this. Business people, on the other hand, are often experience something else. Narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism are known as a dark triad. Who's heard of dark triad before? We got a few hands. So again, I'm not going to read all the words. You can look at the bold ones, but I can tell you Machiavellianism is the end justifies the mean. Yes, just get it done. I don't care. As long as they sign the contract, we'll figure the rest of it out later. Narcissism is after Narcissus, who like to stare in the mirror and look at himself. And it's this ego, this pride, this self-absorption that drives this narcissistic behavior. And psychopathy is low levels of empathy. So not everyone can be empathetic. We started to think this is a muscle you can develop. Some people are born without that muscle. They are not empathetic people. When that is coupled with high levels of impulsivity and thrill-seeking, you end up with things like serial killers. So it's like a really dangerous psychological space to be in. Sometimes they just go into sales and want to do million-dollar deals instead, which is, I recommend that. By all means, don't kill yourself and don't be a serial killer. If you take anything else away from this talk, don't kill people. It's a bad idea. Won't end well. This is a book I read as a freshman in college. So I literally walked into the bookstore saying, I need to know more about this business stuff. What can help me with it? And this is what I picked up off the shelf. So literally, personally, as a freshman, it was like, you should be a bit more Machiavellian than you are. And the book's more balanced. He does provide a little bit more contrast and levelness than the cover might imply. But some people read the first 3 pages and put it down and go do whatever they want. So yeah, you're welcome to check out the book. It's a pretty light read. So what can neurodivergence look like? I did tweak this slide significantly. So Jamie Knight is Spaced Out Smiles on Twitter. He's an autistic developer with the BBC. He does usability testing for them. He also came and spoke at DevOps Days Atlanta this past year. And this is his quote, that if you've met one autistic person, you've only met one autistic person. Autism affects everyone differently. There are other stereotypes you can make about that, but the autistic community generally doesn't want me wading into those, is the feedback I've gotten. So I'll leave it at that. We really don't know. I will stand by this, that neurodivergents usually see the brain works differently, specialist knowledge in particular areas, extreme focus, high energy, stress in group environments, need for quiet space. So we all move in and out of this, right? Like, I like to get away and work quietly. I really love face-to-face interaction, which is why I'm on stage at a conference right now. I don't get overloaded by sensory perceptions. I do like time to think things through. So like if the fire alarm went off right now, it wouldn't freak me out too much. I'd just walk outside. But some people, that's disabling, legitimately, which is why we have a quiet space here. So good job, GOTO Amsterdam. You got quiet space set up. If you need that, go take a time out. I would rather you go take a 10-minute break than leave the conference for the day, right? It's better. Intermediate step, something less drastic. So what does dark triad look like? So these behaviors are rewarded at the top. There's training to bring out these behaviors, and I really like this stress quote from Vanessa, that people become powerful from the adrenaline and stupid from the stress response. So it turns into a bit of a vicious cycle. You get the big deal, the stress response afterwards can be traumatic, and then you can be really nasty to people at work, trying to keep all the promises. And sales and tech have more in common than you might think. We're both under threat. So from a sales perspective, if you don't succeed, the company will go under. We got to bring the money in. The whole company's riding on you. From a tech perspective, I brought up the 3-2-1 rule, which I do some information security work. I did like the opening keynote. I thought that was really neat. I wish he would have used slides. I'm not sure that was the best talk to go no slides on, but I thought it was good. So the 3-2-1 rule is popular like DerbyCon and Black Hat, but it's that you should take 3 hours of sleep, eat 2 meals, and have 1 shower every 24 hours while you're at the event. And they tweet this out to remind people, because neurodivergent folks get excited at a 3-day event in Las Vegas and will stay up for 24 hours, forget to eat, forget to sleep, and have a really bad problem by the end of the event. So I can kind of get this. I can get excited and engaged in an event and realize I need to drink water. It's a big one I forget. Important to stay hydrated. But yeah, if you have trouble remembering to sleep, eat, and bathe, you might be a little neurodivergent. Not sure. So this problem is economically motivated. Toxic behavior is excused in both groups, but only for top performers. I can be stinky when I come to work if I'm programming all night and getting stuff done. I can be a really toxic executive as long as I'm landing all the sales and we're meeting our growth requirements. And this is Manfred Max Neef. He's a more modern economist, and his work is really shoving out Maslow's hierarchy in the psychology arena. People with PhDs told me this. It's not a decision I made. So here's his fundamental human needs. There are 9 of them. Our goal is generally unbounded economic growth and perpetuity. And Alyssa's tweet alluded to that we need to keep growing. That is not true. What Manfred Max Neef says is that unbounded growth encourages unstable local optimization. It gets so big it pops. And people do this. It's more of an ecological system, right? So we grow to a certain size where we're adult. We don't get bigger. We develop in other ways, right? We learn, we travel, maybe we start a life with somebody, start a career. There's other ways of development, and organizations need to understand this too, that it's not just unbounded economic growth that's important. There's development once you hit a certain size, which might be creating psychological safety, or what's another good one? Paying down technical debt, that we actually need to go refactor the old code and deprecate some stuff that's not getting used because it's a support nightmare, and stop bugging us about sales because we are making money. If you're making money, you need to pay down some of that organizational debt. And I'm really starting to think that this is next level agile, is getting into psychological safety and the softer skills. Once you've Agile's been around a long time. Who's had Kanban training before in this room? So there's quite a few hands. So there's a level of assessment that needs to be done within an org to figure out where they are at their journey, and again, some diversification within the training. Just making everyone go to Agile training, where it's Kanban 101 again, half the room might be asleep. They might need something more to develop where they're at, but you still need to have an offering for the beginners. So sales and tech are playing a Nash game. I'm not going to run through all this, but effectively the payoff matrix says that tech is working towards accurate estimates and communication, which is cooperating. Sales is accounting for development time before they sell something. They're not making promises they can't keep. And we both win. We both get a point. Sell functionality that doesn't exist is a defect. Work on whatever you happen to think is interesting is a defect. We both end up with a negative score then. So in a classic prisoner's dilemma is what this is from a Nash perspective. The problem is a bad game board. Your options are go to jail or rat your buddy out. And the thought is if you don't rat your buddy out, they're going to throw you under the bus, so people are terrible and you can't trust anybody. But you put people in terrible situations where they have poor choices and they're going to make poor decisions. This is trinary Nash equilibria. What I did is I extended the game board to put in a neutral case, which gives us more diversity, more requisite variety, and it mitigates our risk in doing so. So we have dangerous no-trust competition up here where we're fighting some, and on the other side we have this safe, high-trust symbiotic behavior, but we can't stay in either of these forever. We have to stay centered in this cooperative, low-trust, commensalistic behavior. So mensalism is when we step on each other. Parasitic behavior is when we're taking advantage of one another. And these things are going to happen, right? We're going to have to forgive some things. We're going to get into some competition when we have the conversation about this doesn't need to keep happening over and over and over. And on occasion, we'll be able to hit this safe, high-trust, symbiotic behavior. The really good weeks where you really love your job. But a lot of the time, you're going to spend in this cooperative, low-trust, commensal state. So abductive logic here is driven more by inertia and environmental context than what's right or wrong. I did have bad and good up here before, and I've changed it because that was very deductive. And it's really about the gravity of the situation. If people have better choices, they will make better options, they will make better choices. What options are you giving them? They're making bad choices, what options do they have in front of them? And just a side note, we did get out to Kinderdijk and look at the windmills, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around all this because we're going to pump water out of this area and live here. Seems like a losing battle to me, but it doesn't have to make sense to me. What I do know is that the Dutch did this, and those windmills are still here, and the Netherlands is here, so it works. So I've got more respect for the Dutch now than this is my first trip to Amsterdam, but it seems like Dutch are tough people. They get the work done, stay focused. And I could talk about this. I get into a lot of prehistoric lore around ancient Rome and how early civilizations built up. I took a lot of Latin in high school. So if you're Dutch and you know a lot about history of the Netherlands, please come brain dump on me because I'm curious to know more about all this. But it's fascinating to me that folks moved in to use windmills to pump water at the time they did. I would not have expected it. And it's not right or wrong. Fact of the matter is they did that and it worked out okay. So you never know, right? What'll make more sense is to focus on that cooperative low-trust commensalism. Lots of windmills in Kinderdijk, which means there was a community there. And they probably had each other's backs. And low-trust commensalism can just be sharing silence together, right? Just sitting with someone who's having a rough time and being present in the same space can be helpful. Maybe you go for a pint, maybe you go for a cup of coffee or a tea, but moving out of that workspace and where you can relate to humans on a more natural level is going to de-escalate that situation and move you back into something commensal. Same thing after an awesome launch, big product release, big contract sign, get out of the office with your team. Board game night is big with operations teams. If you've got an ops team in your building, they might have a board game night already. Is anybody doing board game night currently? See, there's more than you think. And they love it when sales and marketing and execs show up. So this is really the most effective thing you can do, in my opinion, is try to get back to commensal, where we can respect each other as living beings and share that space together. Whether or not it's in Kinderdijk among the windmills, or over a cup of coffee, or at the pub, right? Because we build trust over time, and as we trust each other, we start to look past stereotypes, and we start to understand people are dynamic and complex. We're going to move in and out of these spaces. We always have to return to our origin. So, in conclusion, our differences make the difference. This requisite variety, this diversity, you need diversity of tools within your team. You don't want a single point of failure. You don't want a monoculture. You want different perspectives on your team, which come from different types of people. So you're not supposed to be a human resource where you're 100% interchangeable with another senior Java developer. You reorganize teams. People have to learn how to people again before they can do work. They have to get their rituals down and get in sync with each other. And we do that off of commensal activity like food and drinks and games and fun. But we still see a lot of this in industry, right? Who works in an open floor plan like this? How many people have a breakout space where they can get away? Good. Who can get up and take a walk if they're feeling stressed out at work? That's excellent. Who can work from home if they need to? Even better. If you didn't raise your hand, you need to update your resume and go work somewhere else, because it's not acceptable anymore. The number one thing we can do to help people is to give them an environment that they can adapt into and find shelter and safety. They need a port in a storm. And this is a storm for neurodivergent people. It's a storm for some of the business executives too, right? This is someone that had pulled together 2 dry erase boards to create a little enclave to shelter themselves from the storm so they could focus on their task. This person should have been able to work from home today. If what they were doing didn't focus, they didn't have to people, they should have been able to stay at home and be productive instead of this. This doesn't look like it's fun or productive to me. So what can you do is be first, reach out, persist. If you've got some privilege or just the brass to say, hey, I saw someone working between 2 whiteboards and they looked really freaked out. Do we have a work at home policy? Can you just, you're their supervisor, right? Can you just tell them to go work at home today or work at home tomorrow so they don't have to do that? Because it's not comfortable for anyone. Do what you can. Stay inside your own safety zone. Maybe ask a friend to help with it if it's not something you're comfortable addressing. But be the change you want to see. And go experiment. So this is a book Sal and Catherine put together. It's free online. You can donate to the cause, help us get out and give more talks like this, help us learn how to people better. And that's it. We're at Inclusive Collab on Twitter. I'm at CA Corriere. I'm around today if you've got questions. I appreciate the patience with the bumpy start and y'all being so horribly attentive. Do we have any questions?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Any questions at all? No? If you can fill out the little form here. Also, if any of you are interested in this concept and would like to do an inclusive collaboration talk, one of the things in our movement is we would like to just get these ideas out there. So if there's anything like that you'd like to do, please contact me or Chris or Sal. Go on the website and have a little look to help us.
And I do love negative feedback because that's how I learn. So you can frowny face me or yellow face me and put in a comment at least. But the comments do help. I read all of them. So, thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.